Welcome, I'm absolutely thrilled you're joining us today. In this explainer, we're going to unpack and completely demystify the overarching blueprint for English language arts and literacy. Yep, we're talking about the Common Core State Standards. Now, I know that diving into policy documents can sometimes feel like you're trying to read a foreign language, but don't worry, we're going to break the whole shebang down together. We'll be looking directly at the source material to uncover the really fascinating architecture of how modern literacy is designed, built, and sustained. Let's jump right in.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're organizing this pretty dense blueprint into 5 quick sections: the literacy blueprint, portrait of a student, the 4 core strands, the focus on informational text, and finally, the ultimate end goal.
Section 1. The Literacy Blueprint. Understanding the Foundation.
So, to really get this, we've got to start by framing these standards accurately. The creators didn't set out to write some rigid, day-to-day instructional manual for teachers to robotically follow. Instead, they designed a really thoughtful blueprint for building a literate, capable 21st century citizen. But to understand the foundation of that blueprint, we have to ask ourselves a pretty big question. What does it actually mean to be literate in the 21st century? Because this was the central problem the Council of Chief State School Officers and the National Governors Association set out to solve. Literacy today isn't just about reading a book in a quiet room anymore. It's about navigating a staggering amount of digital and print information in a highly competitive global society.
To tackle that, the architects made a highly deliberate design choice. The standards focus totally on the results, meaning what students should achieve by the end of the year, and explicitly not the means of how teachers should actually teach it. The standards intentionally leave a ton of room for teachers to use their own professional judgment. Think of it like a giant road trip. The standards mandate the final destination, for sure, but they leave the route, the vehicle, and the actual driving completely up to the educators.
Section 2. Portrait of a Student. The human side of the standards.
Let's step away from the policy jargon for a sec and look at the human element. The introduction to the standards actually paints a really vivid picture of what a successful college and career-ready student looks like in practice. It brilliantly illustrates the capacities of a truly literate individual. The standards expect students to demonstrate independence, to comprehend as well as critique what they hear and read, and to build rock-solid content knowledge. They need to seamlessly adapt to different audiences and purposes, deeply value evidence, use technology strategically, and actively work to understand other perspectives and cultures. We aren't just churning out test takers here, we're fostering engaged, open-minded, and highly discerning learners.
Listen to this quote straight from the introduction because it's powerful. They actively seek the wide, deep, and thoughtful engagement with high-quality literary and informational texts that builds knowledge, enlarges experience, and broadens worldviews. Wow, right? It's this deeply humanistic educational vision. The ultimate goal isn't just basic reading comprehension. It's literally expanding a student's entire worldview through literature and information.
Section 3. The 4 core strands. The structural pillars of literacy.
All right, so now that we understand the philosophical blueprint and that human portrait, we need to get into the actual mechanics. Let's talk about how the specific disciplines of literacy are categorized across the grades. Basically, everything hinges on the CCR, the College and Career Readiness Anchor Standards. These are the general, cross-disciplinary expectations required for adults entering college or the workforce. Those grade-specific standards from kindergarten up through 12th grade, they're basically just age-appropriate stepping stones that anchor all the way back up to these overarching adult goals. Every single standard, no matter how small it seems, is pulling the student toward that ultimate readiness.
These anchor standards are split into 4 distinct strands: reading, writing, speaking and listening, and language. But, and this is a huge but, the authors enthusiastically stress that this is an integrated model. The processes of communication are so closely connected. For example, let's take grade 7 English, specifically looking at a drama unit. When 7th graders review a play, they aren't just reading a script in a bubble. No, they have to transfer those reading skills to write an analysis using evidence-based reasoning. They use speaking and listening skills to perform or discuss the dialogue, and language skills to dissect the playwright's specific word choices. It's this continuous, integrated loop of review and transfer across all 4 strands.
So, the crucial point is that literacy is a shared responsibility. The standards make it explicitly clear that literacy development is not solely the job of the English language arts teacher anymore. The document actually demands cross-disciplinary shared responsibility. Students have to learn to read, write, and analyze evidence in history, in social studies, in science, and in technical classrooms just as rigorously as they do down the hall in English class.
Section 4. Focus on informational text.
the NAEP data shift. Now, what's really interesting about this is how the standards prepare students for the real world. They mandate a heavy emphasis on informational texts, and that emphasis dramatically increases as students age. This brings us to a major design shift. Based on the 2009 National Assessment of Educational Progress, or NAEP, reading framework, there's an expected distribution of what students should be reading. The standards align instruction precisely with this framework, and you can see a massive shift from grade 4 down to grade 12.
Let's break that down a bit. In elementary school, around the 4th grade, the framework balances reading perfectly evenly. Half the time is spent on literary texts, your stories, dramas, poetry, and the other half is spent on informational texts. This neat 50-50 split makes sure young minds build a broad foundation of general knowledge while still developing their imagination through literature. But fast forward a few years, by the time a student reaches 12th grade, a massive 70% of their reading across all subjects must be informational. Why? Because most of the required reading in college and workforce training programs is informational in structure and super challenging in content. The standards are aggressively matching the reality of adult demands. And it's vital to note that writing mirrors this reading shift too. As students progress, the standards actively steer them away from just conveying personal experiences or writing basic narratives. By high school, the overwhelming focus of their writing is on constructing rigorous arguments and producing informative or explanatory texts backed up by hard evidence.
Section 5. The ultimate end goal. Building the staircase to success.
Let's move to how this all builds, step by step. We've seen the blueprint, the student portrait, the 4 strands, and the shift toward information. Now let's see how all these structural pieces interlock to create a highly literate, capable adult ready for the modern world. It starts with building strong K-5 foundations. Then it expands to that shared literacy responsibility across all 6 through 12 content areas. Step 3 is mastering Standard 10, what the authors call the staircase of increasing text complexity. Remember our grade 7 drama example? A perfect worked example of this staircase is a 7th grader being asked not just to read a play, but to use evidence-based reasoning to analyze exactly how a staged, live production departs from the written script. They're required to make deeper, more complex connections over time until they finally reach the top step, college and career readiness.
But even with this beautiful staircase completely built out, the architects left us with a vital reminder. The authors explicitly state that they don't consider this document to be some rigid, immortal law. It's a living work. As new research and better evidence regarding education emerge, the standards are designed to be revised and adapted to fit an ever-changing global society.
So, I'm going to leave you with a final thought to ponder. How does this integrated, evidence-based approach to literacy change the way you view your own education or even the schooling of the next generation? It really shifts our perspective on what belongs in a classroom, doesn't it? Thank you so much for engaging with this explainer today. Keep asking great questions, keep valuing evidence, and I genuinely hope you're leaving here eager to explore the fascinating blueprints of education even further.